My town was so small, we didn't have deer crossings. We had John Deere tractor crossings. We just called the deer crossings dinner. And some of you hated that joke. I hated the dinner. So that's where I'm from. I lived in a cul-de-sac, but it was like a Tiger King type cul-de-sac. One time a wild pig was loose in my neighborhood, which is already not a metropolitan sentence, right? Like that's not happening in New York on accident. But a wild pig was loose in the neighborhood, and normally if there's a wild animal on the loose in your neighborhood, you're gonna call someone for help, right? Like 911, or the ASPCA, or Sarah McLaughlin if you wanna make some money. Right? You get somebody out there to take care of Pumbaa, right? My neighbors called their cousins over for a barbecue, and they roasted it, so that's where I'm from. So imagine how shocked I was when I found out that we had a gang problem in my small town. I was like, we don't even have city blocks. So who are you repping for, Ricky? The cornfield. I'm kidding, it was the Confederacy, but South is the reason I guess, I don't know. But yeah, no, I had no idea we had a gang problem, and I realized there were a lot of signs I missed. Like we had a lot of beef in my town, but I thought it was because of the cows. It's a dumb one, I'll admit. I'll admit that. But no, I did. I found out because I accidentally dated a gang member for 2 years. Actually, I had no idea. I really didn't. I was 16. I never had a boyfriend before. I was homeschooled. And the only gang members I'd seen at that point in my life, you know, talked out of the side of their mouths and said stuff like, "Look, Shane." Like he never called me his dame. How was I to know? Had no idea. The prosecutor, on the other hand, yeah, she knew, and she proved her case beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah, in my defense, like I said, I never had a boyfriend before, and I just thought that he had a tight-knit group of friends with the same favorite color and friendship face tattoos. Signs, man, signs. I remember one day after school, him and his buddies came over and they were talking about this essay that they needed to finish off. And I also hated how they worded that. I was like, if you boys use grammar like that on your paper, you're gonna get an F. They got an A, as in arrested. They got them, yeah, the boys got them, but I remember my ex is an MMA fighter, and after a practice session one time, he called me up and told me he got beat up by 10 guys during this practice session. And I didn't know anything about gang initiations at the time, and I was so mad at that coach. I was like, what kind of irresponsible coach lets his star athlete get beat during a sparring session? And I called him up, I gave him a piece of my mind. Right? He didn't say anything, but 6 months after the trial ended, I woke up from a deep sleep and I was like, you know what? He was probably lying about that. So, you live and you learn. What can I say? You live and you learn. I learned a lot about myself. Like one thing I learned is I had a type of man that I liked, and it was highly desirable men. Highly desirable men. Mainly wanted by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Somebody wants them, right? But another thing about me, I am the oldest of 7 kids. It's a lot. We don't have a TLC special. Yeah, we're working on it. We're getting there. But I am the oldest, I'm 31, and the youngest is 7 years old. Yeah, I know what it looks like. She already doesn't believe me. It looks like I went to a camp for girls for 9 months and came back with a baby brother. That's not what happened though. I had a very nice trimester abroad. But no, he's great. I love him. I do. I love hanging out with him so much. And during the pandemic, when I first started, he was 2 years old, and I got laid off. So I moved back home, and so did all my brothers and sisters, right? And he couldn't have been happier that we were all under the same roof because he could play pranks on us. And his definition of pranks is just booby traps. It was like we were the robbers in Home Alone every day. It was hell. It was horrible. One of his favorite things to do is he would lock himself in the bathroom and then spray the floor with Pledge, which is a lot of forward thinking for a 2-year-old. Right? Like, it's already a little scary. Like, he's gonna have a Netflix special, true crime comedy, don't know, but it's something. No, but he would do that and he'd just wait for you. And so you spend 20 minutes unlocking the bathroom door, and as you're running in, as you're falling in the Pledge, he would then Windex you in the face. Yeah, it was crazy. It was horrible. And he didn't just keep it at home. Like, he took his show on the road. He's like, the people need to see a genius at work, right? So, during the pandemic, 6 months in, which is when he started doing a lot of this, everything's closed. The stores are closed, the hair salons are closed. I've been doing my own hair and makeup for 6 months, and it looks like it. I didn't go to cosmetology school, so I was looking kind of rough. Like, actually, during the pandemic, I learned that I only had 2 looks. There was no in between. I could either look like the lead's best friend in a Hallmark movie. She's like, come on, Deborah, give him a chance. Or I could look like I just killed my husband in a Lifetime movie. Like, I could look Michael Jackson bad, or just bad. No in between. And I was leaning pretty heavy into that second look when I was out and about with my little brother, because we were only going places like the gas station. And one thing I didn't tell you about my little brother is that this is what he looks like. He has blonde hair, green eyes, and pale white skin. He looks like he was born wearing Oshkosh with a 720 credit score. And what he thought was so funny is that if we were at gas stations and the windows were rolled down, he would yell out the window, "Somebody help me!" I don't know if you know how illegal it looks to roll up a window as a baby's crying for help. And I kind of feel like you're not really envisioning this right. Like, you have me, an at best disheveled black woman, at a gas station with a beautiful blonde white baby in a car that's so old I'm physically rolling up the window as he yells for help. That is a white savior's wet dream. We're about to get Sandra Bullock her next Oscar, okay? Like, blindside, move aside. Nancy Grace just got her next story of the decade, okay? It was terrifying. But I love him, I do, but I was really happy to move back home. I was happy, I was. And I did. After, I got my job back, I had to move back, and I was living back here in Pittsburgh by myself, and I started doing this thing called introspection. Would not recommend introspection. You'll learn a lot about yourself, but it's almost exclusively things you don't like. Like, one thing I learned about myself is that I love the Popeyes chicken sandwich. It is so good. It's true love. And I'm not just saying that because I kept matching with them on Tinder. I really mean it. I know it's true love because I would still go to the Popeyes on the south side of Pittsburgh. If you've never been there, it's kind of like if you went to Gotham City for a chicken sandwich. Like, it's objectively not worth it. It's like if you went to Mordor for a chicken sandwich. It's kind of like if you went to Ohio for any reason at all. One of the times I went to the Popeyes on the south side of Pittsburgh, one of the employees took his mask off to take a swig out of his flask. And the other one took it off to sneeze. Where the open-air chicken sandwiches were. And I still got it. I did. And I used to not really understand why Popeyes would put their restaurants in such sketchy locations, but I think I figured it out. I think it's because they take their slogan very seriously. They're like, oh, you love that chicken from Popeyes. Prove it. Don't get shot, let's see. Is it real? So, another thing I learned about myself is that I struggled with confidence. I did, and it was like kind of like the self-esteem type, where it would like influence my decision making. And so I used to ask if anyone else struggled with confidence, but I stopped doing that because no one ever answered. Guess they were struggling, but what I did is I started studying groups of people who I think have a lot of confidence, and I don't have conclusions, but I'll just share my findings with you. So the first group of confident people that I studied were whoever, people who would try to fight Waffle House employees. Because that's an idea. It's a really bad one. I'm convinced, so Waffle House is a diner, and they, serve their hash browns the same way that a lot of true crime starts, which is scattered, smothered, and covered. Which is already enough of a hint about what they're about. I'm convinced that the job application for Waffle House is you just go and fight every employee, and whoever you beat, you get their job. I saw a video once of a guy trying to fight a Waffle House employee, and it was multiple of them trying to fight this employee. Not only did she not burn the food, but she caught all the chairs they were throwing at her. And if you don't know anything about Waffle House, they have this thing called the Waffle House Index, which is real. And basically what it is FEMA, because Waffle House is notorious for not closing in natural disasters, tracks whether or not they close to determine how much disaster relief is needed in an area. Well, you're not hearing me. The government determines how bad a storm is going to be based on whether or not Waffle House employees are too afraid to go to work. So, yeah, that was the first group of confident people I studied. The second group of confident people I studied were West Virginians. Stop the punchline, guy. Give me a minute. Specifically West Virginians that identified as Confederates by heritage. Yeah, if you didn't know this, West Virginia was founded in 1863, and the slogan is "Mountaineers are always free." Yes, and it was specifically founded because they did not want to separate from the United States with Virginia during the Civil War, which you can kind of tell if you listen to the name West Virginia. Because it sounds like a place that was named in a hurry. I'll admit that joke is a slow burn. Much like Sherman's March to the Sea was. That's the best reaction I've ever gotten to that. Oh man, I'll move on to the third group of confident people I studied. And it was whoever the graphic design team for the KKK's website was. When I tell you they felt good about that website, they felt like I did when I would wear business casual to the club in 2012. I was like, I know I look good. Can't tell me nothing. I'd say check out the website, don't do that. Not because of the racism, it's because of the FBI. It is. And I went on their website, and what I found most interesting is that they had their events publicly listed. Yeah, I was like, what's the KKK publicly getting into? A lot of barbecues. I was like, look, who doesn't love a good barbecue, right? And so I noticed that after every event, on the side, it specifically said, whites only. Anyone shocked? And I just love that they were so confident in their barbecue. That they didn't think that being the KKK was enough of a deterrent for minorities. There's just some open-minded black man searching the net, looking for barbecues. He comes across the KKK's website, and he's like, look, me and Earl don't have to agree on everything. All right, you guys have been great. I'm Brittany, Alexis.